Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you to the CRF and MBR for extending an invitation to FosterMoore and myself to present. The last time I presented CRF was down in the lovely Orchard, Macedonia. I mustn't have done anything wrong since I was invited back. There's a short little bio on the back of the newsletter that MBR distributed about my background. I've worked for 4 separate solution providers to domain registers in your domain. And I've now worked for FosterMoore. I've been spent 25 years, too many years, implementing solutions around the globe to register authorities like yourselves. The main emphasis of register intelligence, artificial intelligence, is to showcase what we in FosterMoore are doing around the subject that is very relevant and prevalent now, called register intelligence. We're not calling it artificial because we believe it is tangible and not artificial, and you wouldn't deploy artificial decision-making results in a risk-averse environment like yourselves. I think it's that the purpose of the short presentation is really to hit home to yourselves that it is something that you should be looking at. And your policymakers at a national level have no doubt AI national policies. And really it is to gauge how AI can impact on your registry operations. Funny story, myself and Justin Highgate, who is actually one of my colleagues attending with me, who founded CRF, I believe, when he was working with MB with New Zealand, were discussing my presentation in Dublin. He hails from New Zealand, I come from Ireland, 2 power horses in agricultural dairy industry, and we did conclude it has nothing to do with artificial insemination. I had to get that in. Okay. So the short agenda I have is AI, what is it, the background, registers, what's happening, and how can AI help, and what are we planned in terms of implementation AI within our product set. So subject is society's evaluating. Everything you pick up now, every technical brochure, there's no need to take pictures. I'm going to put a copy of this presentation on our website after, and there's links to all the references that I've used. So there's no need for you to be writing down, so you can pay full attention to what I say. So society is evaluating AI and how it applies to its own social outcomes. I think it's incumbent on us and yourselves as registry authorities and ourselves as solution providers to evaluate how AI may potentially change our operations. Now, and I actually used an AI tool. I've resisted, that's why I have my laptop here. I used an AI tool to create this presentation. It's not Microsoft PowerPoint. And it largely created the content of this presentation. I tried to use ChatGPT if any of you have used it. It created some pseudo VBA code that you were meant to put into the presentation. I was really naff, and it was not intelligent and certainly looked artificial. But this is a tool called Journey, and you can ask it questions, and it builds the actual content as you progress. I used to work for Deloitte & Touche in Dublin many, many years ago as a consultant. These are 3 snapshots of what the actual big 4 consulting firms are advising national governments in terms of the impact of AI. Huge savings. The report on the left is by Deloitte to the federal US government. It's saying billions and billions of hours of actually mundane tasks can be taken out of the loop, and huge efficiencies of scale can be derived by applying AI to mundane tasks and releasing your staff up to do value-added tasks rather than doing the mundane input-output processing of actually register input. The rate of adoption post-COVID-19, all our worlds have supposedly changed after COVID-19. If during COVID your offices were shut down, if it wasn't a digital service you were providing, it did not exist. You were scheduling people to come to the office. The impact of COVID-19 has probably driven the actual push for AI, and particularly generative AI, in the last couple of years. And finally, on the right, it seems your citizens are demanding that you do use a little bit more intelligent public service design in the services that you actually deploy to your stakeholders. And I have a little slide in terms of how fundamentally your stakeholders have changed. So, definition. We can't talk about AI without putting up a definition. Every paper I've read as part of my research into this, and I'm also doing a PhD on AI in TCD, defines what is AI. There's no ubiquitous definition. It's as complex as the actual research field itself. But this is by Marvin Minsky. He is an MIT professor. He's a cognitive theorist. He founded the AI lab in MIT, and he's an AI pioneer. He's really influential and still influential in terms of his thinking along the way. I'm going to give you a short little history. I'm not going to go through everything. These guys here, they have this smug, kind of sly grin on their faces. It was 1955. They were from Dartmouth College in the US, and they coined the term AI at a conference. They knew the trouble that they were going to cause for the next 70-odd years, and that's why they have that smug grin on their face. On the left-hand side, it goes all the way back to Pascal's machine, but I would point out Alan Turing, the famous British mathematician. The Turing test is still applied to AI machines and the intelligence of the algorithms to this day. And finally, the rest of it is all that AI is now mainstream. It's in university courses. It's mainstream within the policies ascribed by your governments and consultants, et cetera, et cetera. So it can't be ignored anymore. It's not just ChatGPT. It is far more prevalent than that. With that said, you can't come up with a particular definition of it. It is a huge field. So it includes things like natural language processing, big term, but if anybody has Alexa in their house, it's about, hey Alexa, what's weather today? It's how your text is distilled down to a particular command and she goes off and does an actual search. It includes things like speech recognition. Image recognition is one of the big success stories in artificial intelligence. Most hospitals now use artificial intelligence in terms of digital scans and looking for anomalies within the scan because it's much better than our own eyes, etc. It includes things like expert systems. When I was studying many years ago, many decades ago, when I was in computer science, it was expert systems and decision support systems that were the main driver at the time. Through the operations management and manufacturing systems, the Japanese had invested billions into these expert systems to improve their manufacturing capacity, and it largely failed. On the right-hand side, it's a big domain. So, but it's a big thing, but it has a long history of being the next big thing, okay? So there was, in the 60s, when Minsky was in MIT, set up the AI lab, they were actually looking for problem solving. So could you replicate the decision-making process of a human being? Knowledge engineering then came with expert systems. And each time there was a winter, there was a lapse, there was a lack of take-up of the actual AI, and it failed. It largely failed, and all came down, because now it is not failing, it largely came down to a thing called Moore's Law. Moore's Law is where every couple of years the capacity, processing power, and the data referenceable capability of computer systems get bigger. It doesn't mean that when I was in computer school back in UCC in the 90s, that we were less better engineers than they are today. No, their referenceable data set and the amount of data that they can actually reference has improved. That also is a double-edged sword, because obviously the EU this year, again leading regulation globally, has actually pushed an EU act, the first act in the world whereby it's saying, this is how we're going to govern AI in the EU, this is how we're going to fund it. And they explicitly said that the big tech companies, which are largely out for their own profit concerns, cannot be trusted in terms of actually harnessing the data that they want. The success stories on the right-hand side, autonomous vehicles and deep learning. Difference between deep learning and machine learning is where there's no real human input into the actual decision. So it's like you getting into your car and your car decides where you're going to take you to, because you said something to Alexa about something that day. That is really scary stuff, and there's a lot of theorists within the field say that should not be allowed, that it should not be dictating social outcomes. Very simply, and this is all generated as well, in simple terms, think of AI as algorithms, programs and mathematical functions that matched with the data produce a good decision-making engine. Cognitive theory is really important, and again, it's the pushback by the EU. Nobody wants to create this machine, and we all have the fear that the machine will be taking decisions for us without our ability to understand the decision. Human beings can only understand 7 nodes of a decision tree. So if I was to create a decision tree of whether I will die of a heart attack, do I smoke, do I drink, do I exercise, do I watch golf, each one of them is a node. The human being can only decipher and comprehend 7 nodes. So if it's too complex, it becomes a black box, and then that's where the danger lies. There's a lot more to it, but there we go. I'm gonna speed up because I have 10 minutes to go. There are numerous, myriad, plethora of tools coming out every day. And the reason is the private equity firms and the technology firms are jumping on the AI bandwagon, and anything AI related is being funded. They already reckon in China there's AI peak. that they're not funding any more initiatives because it has permeated all the different disciplines. The only thing to take from that is AI valuable to our domain, or is it snake oil? This is another Princeton professor, Arvind Narayanan, and his research associated. They review all the tools coming out to AI, and the references up there, Semaphore, and they really go into the depth of whether this AI tool should be there, is it good, what are the programming algorithms behind it, etc. It's a very good reference. They actually reckon they're the only success stories, and everything else has been pretty poor. In terms of reference for your own information, the OECD, I know that there was meant to be a speaker from the OECD following me up. I did not include this just to butter them up. If I was going to read any paper, this is, as public authorities, this is what I would use. It is a primer called Hello World, which for program terms is one of the first things you'll write. It really ascribes that AI should be at the heart of your policy making and all public service design. And 1/3 of all manual tasks that exist in your organizations should be removed and AI should be applied to it. They're really calling your bluff, right? And saying it's about time you fully automate your registers and do more quality, value-driven stuff in terms of regulatory functions, and that you're out of excuses now to delay anymore. That is a really good article. And I definitely suggest that you should include in that. This is the article is from 2019. Every country nearly has an AI strategy. The G20 prescribed AI principles in 2019. The House of Representatives in the US prescribed robotic process automation to be used across the federal government in 2019. COVID probably took a little bit of the impetus from it, but it's just out there. It is no longer just theory, and the theory shouldn't be sitting on shelves. Of course, as a European Union citizen, very proud of being such, I think Europe again is showing the way in terms of regulation and saying, this is how we're going to deal with this technical construct. We're not going to let the big tech firms go wild. We're going to invest heavily, up to, I think, 20 billion through the Horizon Europe program, and we are going to harness this for the benefit of our citizens and community without actually allowing the citizens to be abused and what's called. It creates a risk-based approach. In other words, so every AI tool is assessed, and if it's a high risk, it is not allowed to exist. It is not allowed to be used in the European Union. And again, like typically from European Union regulations, there's a huge fine if you don't adhere to the policies. Definitely worth a look. Within time, yes, this is a push for FosterMoore's thought leadership. Not going to be embarrassed about it. We've been pushing out papers continually all year in terms of interoperability, best practices, etc. There is nothing related or commercially sensitive within those papers. I urge you to read them. There's a best practice statement, etc. And we don't go, our software is brilliant, it's better than NRDs or ERSs or whatever. It's simply a statement, and we're bold enough and brave enough to write down what we believe the future of this register domain will be. We published another one, Architecting Innovative Registers, with my colleagues Justin Highgate and Bill Clark, and Joel Foster, the Chief Innovation Officer, who seems to be glaring at me. Have I said anything wrong? No. We are also going to push, because it's one of the questions that I get asked all the time. What is my register like in compared to my peers, right? There should be an objective means to assess your register to see where you are. Now, I know the World Bank guy is probably there. The World Bank Doing Business report was not ideal in terms of ranking jurisdictions and registers. They probably picked the wrong registration model in terms of an Anglo-Saxon registration model, which post-2008, when that UBS banker was hauled in front of the Levin's inquiry, was probably not the way the world was going. We are going to produce a capability maturity model to assess your registers to see where you are. The two best registers I've seen, and it's just because I've visited them recently, Infocamera in Italy and Brunnerson Register Centre in Norway. They are hugely ambitious, and they are going to change the paradigm shift of where they're going as registers. I urge you to connect with Marco. I know Brunnerson mightn't be here, but they are, as I would say, leading best practice. This is a slide. Again, part of that the capability maturity model will be what type of register you are. We hear a lot from the UK about being an active gatekeeper. They're looking for their data integrity, but they'll also have to push on. It is assumed that the data on your register as a statutory register is correct, and it has been put there in the correct manner. What happens after that is, in terms of rather than people coming to you and finding anomalies and discrepancies on your register, you have active AI programs scanning for discrepancies on your register, and at least as a parent, you'll want to know if your child is misbehaving rather than a neighbour coming up and telling you that they are. Okay, I would also say this is a snapshot from our last paper. To be honest, there's as a domain I was implementing electronic form filling applications 30 years ago. We haven't really moved fundamentally beyond the input-output process of registration, and I believe we should have. The register should be automated. There should be a lot more tech applied to it. And it is possible to have a fully automated register because there are jurisdictions around the world that do so. This is a slide I presented in Paris when I was presenting. And this is what you're contending now. Even Geraldine mentioned transformation. It's all about identity validation post-COVID. You can't have people visiting public offices. Transformation, moving to the next level. Remember, transformation is the third step of what's called digitization, where you scanned all your paper documents, digitalization, where you improved and guillotine your processes, and transformation is where you truly get the grips and create an operating model that benefits your stakeholders. And the rest of it is all there, AI, financial reporting, etc. I believe full automation is one of our predictions, is a priority. And not alone that, you have organizations like FATF chasing and haranguing you all the way. FATF, there's no best practice statement for registers in the world. FATF do audits of your jurisdictions and they make pretty stringent and cutting remarks in terms of what you should be doing as registers. So your stakeholders are changing, your users. They're no longer the legal firms or the accounting firms. They're the asset recovery offices, they're fiscal investigative units, they're the police authorities, and they want better forms of data, and they want the data that's coming from the registers, the single source of truth, to be better. Vern, I'm nearly there, with 3 minutes to go. 3 minutes ago, George. Vern is our product, and Joel as CIO is responsible. We spend $15 million every year on product development. Now, what he does with it, I have no idea, right? But he must be having some parties. But half of that budget is being spent this year on researching and developing how AI can be applied to our product set, because it's the one question our customers are asking. I'm nearly there. This is what a Deloitte's report concluded that AI can be delivered in 3 main areas. Of course, for back office. Automation, verification of all the information coming in, reporting from that, analytics, stats, etc. But also all the actual predicting fraud and abuse. And this is why we're spending a lot of money and time in terms of creating compliance index, looking for anomalies in filing patterns, etc. Why do you let the intermediaries and the other agencies do that? I think the registers are best placed to do so. So this is what I call our Mappa Mundi in terms of our research. We might even, Justin is our resident internal intellectual property counsel, but we might even patent it because there's a lot of money going into this. But it's split into 2 main areas, input and output for the processing side. So as you receive documents intelligent document processing, even names reservation. Why can't we finally get the grasp with being able to automatically put a name on a register without somebody eyeballing it, even though the legislation provides for it? And then on the regulatory side, we have the regulatory risk assessment in terms of compliance indexing, intelligent search tools. We're working with our partners, Open Ownership, who have put us in touch with a couple of out-of-the-box AI plug-and-play tools, such as suspicious activity, research awareness that we're looking at. We're also working with our partners, Core Filing, who through their Seahorse program are actually using AI to actually tag the actual information being filed and looking for discrepancies and all that sort of stuff. So we're looking out to our own ecosystem to actually trying to create a product, a consolidated product set that delivers AI functionality into a register environment. I'm going to stop there with 1 minute to go, and is that okay? Take questions. I better thank my team because they put a lot of pints into this. Justin sitting drinking with me, discussing the definitional terms of AI. I'm enjoyed by our newest recruit, Stephen Brandon, who drinks a lot of beer, right? Yeah. But thank you very much. And if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
We're FosterMoore.
From the beginning, our mission has been to simplify people's lives through intelligent registers. That's why we're known globally as the Registry People. We deliver our products through Vern, our registry-aware platform, designed and built specifically to power registers. Vern is the fastest and easiest way for governments and regulators to implement flexible, intelligent online registries. Find out more at FosterMoore.com.